folks, welcome. We're going to give it a few minutes and let more people join. Hello, hello. We're excited that you're with us today. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a lovely day, afternoon, evening, wherever you might be in the world. Looks like we have a good number of folks on here, so that's awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. We are so excited to welcome you to Syracuse University, hopefully welcoming you to Syracuse this fall in some capacity. My name is Tracy Zappola. I am a director in the Office of Admissions. I'm also a very proud Syracuse alum from a long time ago, and I'm excited to tell you and share with you a little bit more about our incredible study abroad programs. We, first of all, congratulate you on your admission to Syracuse. We are so excited for you. We hope that you join us and that you will become part of our Orange family. And as part of our Orange family, we really, really hope that you'll have an opportunity to study abroad or study away at some point during your college career. I did it. It changed my world forever and changed my life. And I really encourage every single student, should they be able to do it. So to tell us more about study abroad and study away opportunities, I'm joined by our experts, Delaney, and a couple of our student ambassadors, global ambassadors, who will tell you more about that. I do want to mention, though, before we get started, that we'll take your questions throughout the session this evening. You can use the Q&A feature right in Zoom to go ahead and put questions in there about anything that you might have a question about related to study abroad or study away. At the end, we'll answer some of those questions live, but throughout the evening, Lauren and I, my colleague, will be behind the scenes answering some questions as well. So feel free to use that Q&A feature to ask us questions. So Delaney, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Tracy. And yes, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I am campus outreach manager at Syracuse Abroad. And that essentially means that it's my job to talk to as many students as possible about all of the incredible options for study abroad that we have here. I am also an alum of Syracuse University, and I studied abroad my junior year in Santiago, Chile, and our program there. And it opened a lot of doors for me later in life. I got to intern in South America again after graduation. And I really do love living in this space every single day. And the number one thing that I love the most is working with our student alums, like Genevieve. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. My name is Genevieve, and I'm currently a senior. I studied abroad my junior year, spring semester, and I went to London.
Perfect. And what are you studying?
I'm currently studying political science.
Perfect. And we're going to have another student join us as well, Blythe, when she's able to get on. So stay tuned for that. Now, there's a couple of really important things to know about Syracuse abroad in particular. Number one, we are top 10 in the country for study abroad consistently. This means that you're getting access to world-class programs when you come to school here and study abroad through our center-based programs. And you're also going to be with students studying abroad from all over the country who come and take advantage of our programs because they're so renowned. So you'll be studying abroad with lots of folks from SU, lots of SU students, but others that you'll get to meet and make new friends of and everything like that as well. And perhaps the most important is that only 10% of students nationwide study abroad, where that number is about 55%, a little over half here at Syracuse. So that means that we make it pretty much as easy as possible to do. You can go abroad anytime starting the summer after your freshman year. If you're in the Discovery program, that is our first semester freshman year program, a little bit different. But most students are going to go sophomore or junior year on average, but you can choose. You also don't need to know the language to study abroad. For the vast majority of our programs, you are just going to take one class in the language at whatever level you're at, and the rest of your classes can be taught in English. Though there's certainly many options for more immersive language learning as well. And it also means that it's part of the culture. The other students in your classes, in your major, in your in your student orgs, for example, are all going to be studying abroad with you. Maybe you'll study abroad with them in the same place, go with friends, but you certainly don't have to. I didn't know anybody when on my study abroad program. And you're going to make friends for life. And so all of that to say is that you're also going to be in a really elite group of people, because you're going to have something on your resume that 90% of other people don't have. So you really do get to stand out in this way. And there are many, what am I trying to say? Skills, thank you, that employers are looking for in students, in graduates, that you gain when you study abroad. I think the number one most important thing that I hear from alums, and I interview hundreds of alums like Genebu every single year, the number one thing that you gain is the feeling that you can take on anything now. If you thought you were adaptable, if you thought you were capable, confident, skilled, what have you before, when you get to learn to live abroad, you solve problems, you learn to communicate, certainly, but you learn to live on your own outside of the campus bubble at Syracuse, in these incredible cities. I actually have a picture of Strasbourg, France behind me. That is another location of one of our centers. We're going to get into those in a moment, but you can see it's absolutely beautiful. This is Cafe Atlantico right here, or one of these boats, which is a cafe on the water that students can go to. It's 5 minutes away from the center. Stunning. But anyway, while you're having these incredible experiences, you're going to be learning so much more about yourself and what you're capable of. So number one thing that students tell me is that they feel like so much more ready to take on those high level internships, go for the big grad schools, the big jobs. And you gain that because you stepped out of your comfort zone. Now, your employees also, employers want to see that you can work with those unlike yourself. You're certainly going to do that when you study abroad. Language skills, of course, you can use language skills to negotiate for higher salaries. It's a hard skill that you can demonstrate. In an increasingly global world, it is truly only more and more important. So that's the why to have all of these incredible experiences. You're of course going to have a lot of fun too. I hope that does not even need to be said. This is actually a picture from Chile. I'm not in it, but that's okay. Of our students sandboarding in the Atacama Desert, San Pedro de Atacama. It's the driest desert in the world. It is where NASA and other astronomical organizations have satellites. You can see the Milky Way with the naked eye. Basically looks like Mars. It's a really, really interesting place, and our students go there in the Chile program every single semester to have a really interesting opportunity that's incredibly unique only to Chile. But that is just one of our centers. Those are what we refer to when we talk about the programs that Syracuse runs. We also have 5 additional or over 50 additional World Partner programs. Those are run by other professional study abroad organizations or major universities around the world. And those are also going to give you Syracuse University credit. the same tuition, and the same financial aid. So I promise doing a world partner is just as easy as doing a center program. And then you don't have to go for a full semester. That's definitely the most popular option. And that's what both Blythe and Jennabu and I did. But we have hundreds of students do our summer programs as well. We have short-term programs that are over spring break. I'm going to dive in to each of these a little bit more in detail. And I'm not sure where Blythe and Genevieve went, but you're certainly welcome to turn your cameras on and join me when you're able to. Thank you. Now, I'd love to know first, this is a map of all of the places where we offer programs. And while you're taking a look at this and all of the incredible variety that it offers, I'd love to know why both of you decided to go to London. Genevieve, do you want to start?
So I decided that I wanted to go to London because of the diversity. I wasn't really sure about the diversity in the other countries that were being offered. And then also I kind of wanted to make it easier to myself by going to a country that speaks English. So I'm able to like really understand the people and I'm able to like maneuver properly.
Fantastic. Those are all very good reasons to go to London. An undeniably very diverse city. And it's probably our largest city. It definitely is the largest city of all of our programs. Blythe, could you introduce yourself? A little bit more about yourself, what you're studying, things like that?
Yes, definitely. So sorry, my apartment had a fire drill right at the time that this started. My name is Blythe Reese. I'm a senior. I'm double majoring in political science and broadcast journalism, and I studied abroad in the fall of my junior year. So that was fall of 2022. And I chose to go to London because being a like in the communications area, it was just somewhere that had so much to offer for me in that space. And also, it was always really interesting to me with a political science major as well, like to see kind of American history from the perspective of England. That was always really interesting to me as well. And I think that London is such a great place if maybe you're a little more nervous about studying abroad, or maybe like you're not too sure of where you should go, because it's so you can get to so many places from London since it is such a central city location, but it's not too daunting because everyone there does still speak English. It's a very easy city to get around. There's not a lot of language barriers, but there's so much culture and there's so much to do. So to me, it's honestly my favorite city in the world at this point.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing. Another thing is a lot of the classes that I had to take, a lot of the political science classes that were required for me were offered in the London program, and that's probably like the number one reason why I decided to study at London.
Class choice is huge. We offer many different classes for many different majors across the whole slate of our centers. I'm certainly happy to talk about a specific one if anyone's interested, but that's a very, very, very good point. You stay on track for graduation when you study abroad. I can assure you of that as well. We work really hard to offer a variety of classes, and also I encourage you, you take away one piece of advice from this whole evening is to plan ahead if possible. Come once you get to campus, start talking to your academic advisor. You don't have to know where you want to go, but just knowing that you think or you're even considering studying abroad at some point, let them know so that they can help you start planning classes accordingly from the jump. Because there's some classes that you're probably not going to find abroad. Some core classes, for example, for certain majors. And so you're going to want to save those for certain semesters, and then those more flexible classes for that semester that you want to study abroad. So that's just a general overview. And so I definitely encourage, no matter what you're studying, I encourage you to talk to your advisor early. Now, without further ado, these are all of the locations where Syracuse runs programs. We talked a little bit about Chile. Another special note about this program, I promise I'm not totally biased. There is a special reason to talk about it a little extra, and that is because in the fall, it is a fully Spanish immersive program. You're going to be taking all of your courses in Spanish. So if you really want to become fluent in a language, which was was what my goal for college and my study abroad experience was, I encourage you to go to Chile in the falls. You are going to take a couple classes with the cohort. They're unbelievable. They're probably the best classes I ever took at Syracuse, with the director of the program. And then you're going to take a couple at a local Chilean university. And so this again gets you a little extra outside of your comfort zone. You're going to gain a lot from that experience, and I promise you're still going to get really good grades. You're going to have lots of resources for helping you study, other folks in your class who speak English. There was some in all of mine. So it's nothing to be scared of, and there's only a lot to gain. And then in the spring, Chile is like the rest of our programs. Like I mentioned earlier, you only need to take one class in the language. You don't have to worry about it at all in London, of course. But for the rest of our non-English speaking programs, you have to take one class in the language, and then the rest are going to be offered in English. So there's a little bit of variety there. And then in Madrid, that is our very quintessentially European program. It's such a beautiful city. The center does a really good job of getting students out and about and involved. Really with all of our programs, we try to do that. You're going to have opportunities for going to the West End in London. You're going to be able to do cooking classes in Florence, make pasta. You're going to take day trips to Barcelona from Madrid, or weekend trips, I should say. You're certainly going to have overnight weekend trips through all of our programs. In Central Europe, you're going to go to Germany, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, all over Poland, which is where you're based. So there is so much happening in all of these places beyond just taking classes and living there. We are turning up the dial to 100, really, on the activities and experiences that you can have. And while I'm talking about it, I'd actually love to hear from you guys, Genevieve and Blythe. What were your favorite experiences that were provided by the center?
I can go first. So the classes that I took, a lot of them were more communications based, just because that is a big part of my major. So I took an advertising class while I was there, and I took a beauty and diversity and fashion media class. And for those classes, we did a lot of like museum tours. We did a lot of walking tours around London, looking at different ads and things like that. In my beauty and diversity and fashion media class, we actually went to a few plays in London, which was really fun because I love seeing shows and things like that. But they really do a good job of hosting different activities to get you involved. They would do bus trips around different places in England. They would do, different little like excursions around the city that they email you about pretty much every week. So just jumping on that is a great way to kind of see different parts of the city and get to do different experiences without, having to pay out of pocket for it. And you get to get closer to a lot of your other classmates, which is great. So definitely take advantage of that.
For me, I took a business and nightlife class, and basically what the assignments for the class and like the homework would be was for us to go to bars and like lounges and nightclubs and basically do essays on it and how they run, how they stay afloat, and how they're able to run that business. Another class that I took was Black in London, where most of the class time we like took field trips and we visited places that was very significant to the Black community in London specifically. The third class that I took was documentary reality, and most of the class we would watch a lot of documentaries. And then I think my most significant experience that I had while I was in London was going to Lockerbie with the school. Before that, I never knew like what happened with Lockerbie, and it was basically the plane crash that killed 35 Syracuse students. Like I think it was like in 19, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, like in the 80s or the 90s.
It was 88,
And
yeah.
yeah, so we went to Lockerbie, and it was probably one of the saddest experiences ever, but we learned so much, and we were able to connect with the community and like speak on their experiences and actually meet survivors of the plane crash. So yeah, that was very impactful to me.
I'm so glad you shared that. That's something that our London Center does every semester. And it really, I think, is an honor for a lot of the students to get to have that opportunity to keep that connection between Syracuse and Lockerbie so strong, especially because the students were returning from a study abroad experience. So it is a major part of our history, and I'm so glad that you appreciate it and you cherish that memory. Um, now, just to go back to our list of program opportunities, a little bit, we talked a lot about London. I think we covered that pretty well. It's a really, really phenomenal city. But let's move on a little bit to Strasbourg. So this is a bit of a more medium-sized center. Really, the highlight here is a strong emphasis on history, political science, international relations. For anyone in Maxwell, you can be of any major and go to Strasbourg. There are some, I believe, some psychology classes, some communications. There's an engineering program, for example. But it is really known for its internships at the Council of Europe. We are the only undergraduate institution that can send students to intern at the Council of Europe, which is a major intergovernmental human rights organization based in the city. And we also work closely with the European Parliament and all of the embassies and consulates in Strasbourg. And certainly there's much, much more going on beyond politics and governance as well, but it is definitely a highlight of the experience. Florence needs very little introduction. That is our largest center and our oldest. And it is beautiful. We have a building there called Villa Rosa. Actually, I should note too that the picture in the slide is of our center in Strasbourg. It is also a villa, right on the water, right in the heart of the European quarter, and just stunning. Florence offers a very, very wide variety of classes, certainly known for food and art and all of those wonderful things. But we have students there from every single major as well. And then that brings me to exploring Central Europe. This is the only center that's just in the fall, but other than that, it's all the same classes, traveling, all of that good stuff. In fact, traveling is really the heart of the program. You're based in Wrocław, Poland, for most of the semester. That's where you're going to be taking many of your classes. That's where you're going to be living. But you're going to travel to all of those countries I previously mentioned, all over Central Europe, and really dive deep into the history of the region and how identity changes because of changing borders, and also irregardless of borders, is really, really interesting. And that actually won the award for best curriculum design in all of study abroad in 2017. So if you're at all interested in that region or in history or in many, many other topics that are related to the intersections of those things, I highly recommend. Now, we talked a little bit about classes already, so that's great. I would have asked you both what your favorite classes were. I generally took all the best ones, so that makes my job easy. Those are definitely some of the highlights of the London program that I've heard of. But there's a couple other highlights I want to mention here too. So first and foremost, our courses are hands-on. I love that you guys talked about your field trips and activities you did as part of them. You are living where you're learning about. You're not just taking your lectures in a classroom. You're going to go touch, taste, see, feel what you're learning about when you're studying abroad. We want you to get outside of the classroom and really understand where you're living. So you're not getting classes that you're going to get in Syracuse. Not even close. These are really a step up above and beyond that. So I want to note that too. But first, Signature seminars, what's that? That's just a traveling class that you can take the first couple of weeks, usually 10 to 14 days before your experience at your center begins. They are required in Chile and Central Europe. All of that traveling that I just talked about is part of their signature seminar. In Chile, you're going to go to Buenos Aires, you're going to go to Patagonia, and visit also many, many spots within Santiago, and you're going to compare and contrast those two Southern Cone countries and their modern social issues. In Madrid, you can deep sea dive in the Mediterranean and get your scuba diving certificate. I actually got to do that for a little bit this fall. And I have to tell you, the students were having the time of their life in the south coast of Spain, learning about the marine ecology of the Mediterranean, paddle boarding, taking boats out to islands and lighthouses, learning how to cook paella, going to Europe's largest aquarium in Valencia. Phenomenal. And I also can say the same about London's. There are a couple, but one of the highlights is the trip to study sustainability in Scandinavia. You're going to pet reindeer. You're going to, I believe, maybe even like ice fish. You're going to explore 3 countries in Scandinavia and learn all about how sustainability works in that region. So really, really phenomenal opportunities to just augment your experience. They're optional, I should have added too, in London, Florence, and Madrid. But I really, really recommend trying to do them because they truly, they just extend your experience. They add so much to it, and they're probably going to be your most fun class. Did either of you do a signature seminar?
I didn't do one, unfortunately.
I did not, but one of my roommates did, and she loved it. So she talked about that for like the first few weeks that we were there.
Was it sustainability in Scandinavia or yeah?
I don't think it was in Scandinavia, but it was sustainability. I want to say that it was maybe in like Scotland or something, but she loved it. She got to meet a bunch of the people in our program before we even started. So she really got a lot out of that.
Yeah, that's definitely another added benefit too, is you get to meet people and build really deep bonds right away. Basically fast friends before you get started. I already talked a little bit about the language requirements. I will note that at all of our non-English speaking programs, there's also options, like with Chile, to take classes at a local university in the language. So we work with Universidad Autónoma de Madrid. We work with University of Strasbourg and Sciences Po, which is probably the most premier French university system in Strasbourg. We work with University of Florence in Florence. You catch my drift. So there are many, many opportunities for more immersive language learning if that's what you're interested in. And they work seamlessly with the same housing and all of that kind of stuff. All of those logistics are just the same as if you take classes at our centers. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about housing, which is probably one of the biggest concerns or most important aspects of your time abroad. Where are you going to live? We provide housing for all of our students, and what that actually looks like varies from program to program. Some are just host families, some are just apartments or flats, like in London, and then some are more residence halls / dorm style. And sometimes they're single rooms, often it's double rooms or shared. It really is wide variety. I'm certainly happy to talk about each specific program, but you can also find all of that information updated by the minute on our website. So I definitely encourage you to go there as well. Yeah, that's also where you're going to find all the class lists. You're going to be able to see every class that we offer every semester on our website now. You could literally start planning today. You probably don't need to do that, but you could. So keep that in mind. That's always the best source for up-to-date information. But I'd love to take a moment to ask our global ambassadors, our program alum, what was your housing like in London? And I know London's has changed a little bit over the years, but please just tell me about your personal experience.
So,
So, oh
oh,
no,
sorry.
I'm going to start
You go
naming.
first.
Genevieve?
Oh, okay. So for me, I live in a single flat and I had my own room with my own bathroom. However, I did share like a common area with like 4 other people. And yeah, it was pretty standard. I liked it a lot. The only thing that I wish I could change was the bathrooms, because the bathrooms in London usually are like very small. Like it depends on what type of like dorming you're in, but the bathrooms in our flats were like pretty small, but the rooms were pretty big. They offered us a lot, like for example, like plates and utensils and appliances and things in that nature. So yeah, they were very helpful.
Yeah, mine was literally the exact same thing. So we lived in, I'm sure that you might have too, but we lived in Tufnell Park, which is like a 20-minute tube ride away from the Syracuse London Academic Building, like pretty much like the heart of London. You're like a 20-minute tube ride out, but you're still in London. It's just a little bit quieter, which is nice. But same thing, I had a single room with an attached bathroom. Same deal. The bathroom's literally the size of a shower. It's a shower room. That's what they call them. So be prepared for that if you go there. But we shared a kitchen, we shared a living room, all of the like utensils and cutting boards and pots and pans and TVs and all of that were already there when we got there. And the I lived with 4 other girls, and the 4 other girls that I lived with, I only knew one of them going into it, but now we're all like best friends. We've been out of the experience for a year and a half, or yeah, like a year and a half now. And we're all still super duper close. So it's nice to live in that kind of housing situation because you still get to interact with the people that you're living with, but it's not like a dorm where you're literally living on top of each other. So it was the perfect scenario for all of us.
And I want to add one more thing. I think a lot of the places, well, most of the places that Syracuse chooses are always in the heart of London. So they're very convenient. You can always take the tube, or you could always take a bus to class or to explore or to go other places. So yes, like the locations are very convenient.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, on top of that, super quick. I don't know if it's still the same way now, but I assume it probably is. But the building, there were 2 different buildings that you could have lived in when I was there, and most of like the musical theater kids lived in the other building than I did. But the whole like section where we were living, it was just all Syracuse abroad students. So like you really get to know a lot of the kids in the program really, really well. Like at the end of the semester, my roommates and I ended up throwing like a little holiday party, and we just invited like a bunch of the people in our like area because they were all like right across the hall or like on the floor down. So that they also do a really good job of that because you really do get to know most of the people in your program.
No, you are all spot on. Yes, I want to just add too that we try to certainly, yes, bring Syracuse students together and try to make sure that commutes are no more than 30, 40 max minutes. It's rare that it's even 40 minutes. So we really do try to keep students close to our centers or wherever they're attending classes for convenience. So housing is wonderful. I want to note here on this slide, the very last, but definitely not the least, item is internships. And we will find an internship for you abroad. It is the easiest internship you are ever going to get. You just let us know what you're interested in studying or learning or working on, and it could be within your major. It doesn't have to be. Really, it's up to you. And we will work with our vast connections at our various center locations to find something that fits your needs. And we've had students do literally everything you can think of. I really can't say it enough that the sky's the limit. We've had students intern at major music labels, at breweries, at schools, dentist's office, law firms, design studios, certainly every business you can think of, sports teams and organizations, newspapers, documentary studios. There's a student right now in Strasbourg who is a physics student a little bit of a niche major. And she wanted to do an internship. She thought that she would just be doing like a museum tour guide thing at a local astronomy museum. No, she's literally doing research in her field of planetary formation. They explained it to me, it went a little over my head, but that's okay. And she's doing it in her field with a French Canadian professor in English with other French students. She is really truly working in the exact field she wants to go into for her career in physics. And so really, I just use that example to illustrate that don't hold yourself back or sell yourself short. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want. Because we can probably do it. Did either of you do an internship? I can't remember.
No, I wasn't able to.
I did not, but again, 3 of my roommates did, and they all loved theirs. So if I could go back, I probably would have done one, but at that point, I didn't. But all 3 of them loved their internships.
Yeah, I would say that my biggest regret of my time was not doing an internship. I just wanted to like have fun, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. But I probably missed out on having a really incredible thing on my resume and probably just adding to my experience abroad. So food for thought there, certainly. Now I'm checking the questions. Sorry, I wasn't doing this earlier, but while we're on a few, the housing in Chile specifically, is homestays, because of the language acquisition being so important there. So just an example, but there's like I said, a lot of variety amongst all of those as well. Now, I want to note there are a few special programs. Like I said earlier, pretty much any student of any major can study abroad, and usually they can go anywhere that they want. But there are a few exceptions to that. And those are in majors where there are very intensive like studio hours, very strict class order in a large quantity. In music, you need a space to perform. So these are some majors where we've designed with the schools and colleges special programs that fit seamlessly into your academic plan without missing a beat on campus. I do want to note here with health and sciences, that is more specifically pre-health, biology, and chemistry, biochem, things of that nature within arts and sciences. Now, many of these are certain years and certain semesters. So for example, with engineering, this would be fall of your sophomore year in Strasbourg or spring of your sophomore year in Florence. So that can give you a little bit of an idea of how that looks. Now, some of these, like health and sciences, even engineering, for example, probably some others, you don't have to do these programs. You can also usually find some engineering, chemistry, biology, etc. classes in our world partner locations, especially Australia and Ireland. So if you're in any of the STEM fields, I very much encourage you to look at our major English speaking partner universities. They're going to be able to offer a very wide variety of classes since it's a whole university like ours in Syracuse. And they're going to be able to offer them in English. And the vast majority of these classes we can work on approving for credit here on campus. So don't be daunted if you're in the STEM field. Like I just had a physics students in Strasbourg. You can even go, you don't have to go to those 2 places either, Australia and Ireland. Especially again, I emphasize here that advanced planning. All right, just checking these questions really quickly. While we're at it, study abroad experience that focuses on business or sports management. Those are 2 fields where majors where students have a lot of variety. Business students truly go anywhere. They usually only have to take 1 class in they're only going to take 1 business class abroad in most cases. And that they can do that in a lot of different locations. And then you're going to save up electives. If you do want to take more business classes, we offer them in in London. And then in sports management, you're going to be looking ideally maybe at Madrid and London. They're going to have a few more options for you, but you don't have to go to those two locations either, again, with advanced planning. And those are just two examples of majors, but honestly, what I just said applies to probably 90% of majors. So whichever one you're thinking of, is probably that same thing. You're going to take maybe 1 or 2 classes in your major, though you can do more if you have to. That might just narrow down your options. So that's where I encourage you to save up electives, and that way you can go anywhere that you want to go and have maximum flexibility. Now, that brings us to our World Partner programs. As I said before, you're still going to get Syracuse credit. You are going to pay the same tuition, and you're going to get all the same financial aid that you would here on campus and at any of our centers. And I promise I'm definitely going to get into tuition and funding. I saw that was a popular question. So our world partners, you can see, you saw the map of countries before of the world. This is a list here. We have several universities or programs within several of these countries. For example, we offer 3 programs in Ireland. So that's where we add up to this big, incredible 50+ number. These programs are just for the semester. We don't offer summer programs for most of these locations. There are a few. And then some are major universities. I've mentioned, or I will mention University College Dublin in Ireland, Yonsei University in South Korea, which is an incredible university, one of the best, if not the best, in South Korea, and our students can go there. Remarkable. Let's see. There's also University of New South Wales in Australia. There's many, many more where that came from. But there's also professional study abroad providers that we work with as well. So you may have heard of these before. CEA, that's in Barcelona and Rome, and Prague as well. SIT, those are most of our programs in Africa and India, and Madagascar. DIS, those are in Copenhagen and Stockholm. So you can see it's a little bit of an alphabet soup, but these are world-class professional study abroad providers. Now at those programs, you're going to be with, like at our centers, American students studying abroad or international students as well, but those who are studying and matriculated at American universities. Now, at our partner university programs, you're going to be studying abroad with folks from all over the world, not just Americans. You're going to have students who are studying abroad, but also you're going to meet local students who are full-time at these universities. I had a student one semester, I believe they were in Ireland, and Australia, and they had roommates who were from Malaysia, France, Germany, maybe Cambodia as well, and many, many more places. So you're really going to meet really, really cool people. And my tip here is that you're also going to meet friends that you can crash on their couches later in life, and you want to travel to all of these incredible, beautiful places more cheaply. So just an important note there, but I just want to emphasize that this is not off the beaten path by any means. We have hundreds of students do these programs every single semester. We have over 50 that go to Australia. We have 100 that go to Barcelona, and many, many more. We have at least 10 to 13 or so in Copenhagen, for example. So you're going to be in very, very good company on many of these programs. And it just gives us the opportunity to offer more geographic locations than we can manage ourselves. Yes, I think that covers the most important aspects of the World Partner Program. I will note, C semester is a little unique. I like to give that one a special shout out. It is based basically on water. You're going to spend 6 weeks in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, learning how to sail and navigate the oceans and all of that good stuff. And then you're going to spend the next 6 weeks on a boat at sea, either in the Caribbean or in the South Pacific, in Tahiti and New Zealand, and going all over the place there, making lots of stops certainly to further your class, but you're going to be spending a lot of time on the water. So that is a unique program and very adventurous, but there's actually humanities and sciences classes, so it's open to everybody as well. Now, also for most of these, you don't need to know the language. I just want to note that as well. The vast majority of these programs are English-based. There are a very select few that are language immersive, and usually for those, we offer another English-based program in the same country. So for example, in China, there is a Chinese intensive program in Beijing, but you don't need to know Chinese for all of the programs in that country. Same with Germany. We have one German intensive program and one English-based program. So there's a lot of variety within these as well. Now, summer, this is important. We know that not everyone wants to or can do a full semester. So we work really hard to offer, again, hundreds of students every summer the opportunity to spend either 3 weeks or up to 6 to 7 to 8 weeks at one of our major European centers. So Florence, London, Madrid, or Strasbourg. We offer classes and internships. So you'll usually do one or the other, whereas during a full semester, you're going to do both classes and an internship. During the summer, you're just going to pick one. Again, same deal with the internships. We're going to find it for you. So everything I said before still applies in the summer, so you don't miss out on internship season here in the States. Something really unique about our summer programs also is that you can spend 1 3-week block taking one class in Florence and then the next in London, or switch them around. But basically you can build your own adventure with 2 different classes and 2 different centers. So that's why that both is there. And that's a really, really popular option. Those are 2 very different cities, 2 very different experiences, and you can combine them into one summer of adventure. So that's been very popular. Now, I also want to note there are some special internship locations as well. Brussels is very focused on communications and politics, governance, international relations. But there's some flexibility. And then Singapore is very focused on business. Tel Aviv is a little more flexible with a couple different topics for internships. So you get a little glimpse at what summer entails, but I really encourage you to visit our website to see what kind of classes we offer. There's a very wide variety. And the other best thing about summer is you generally don't have to worry about your academic plan if you're very concerned about meeting all of your requirements during your time on campus. Then we offer short-term programs. This is actually a picture from one of those. This is a photo of students doing our history of sports, or history and culture of sports in Australia, obviously with a kangaroo. And this is a class that is run by a faculty member based in Syracuse that they design. And they are able to bring a group of students over to just do that one class that travels wherever that faculty member thinks is important to the class, while they have an incredible international experience. So this is just one example. We have a class that hikes to Mount Everest Base Camp, and that is to study the effects of altitude on the human body. There is a class this past semester, or this past spring break, I should say, that went to Mexico. It was based in international relations, and they learned about governance there. There is an environmental class that goes to Costa Rica. There's a public relations class that goes to Switzerland every year. There are many, 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 many more where all of that came from too. Design in South Korea, human rights in South Africa. It pretty much is endless. You don't need to be in those majors to go on those programs the vast majority of the time. So if you're interested in the topic at all, don't be afraid to apply. Also, if I didn't say it yet, you can do multiple study abroad experiences at Syracuse. So you can go and do a semester and a short-term program, 2 short-term programs, a summer and a semester, whatever floats your boat, whatever works for you. The combinations and the possibilities are really endless. Now, I'll just breeze over this to say that academics isn't everything. I think Jenna Boo and Blythe talked about a couple of really good reasons for why they chose London. I mentioned that I really wanted to learn a language, and that's why I chose Chile, in addition to just being interested in South America. I encourage you to think about your hobbies too. I got to ski in the Andes Mountains when I was in Chile. I never thought I'd get to do that. That was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and that was really, really incredible. So think about your hobbies. Is there a sports team you've always wanted to see? Where else do you want to travel? Have you always wanted to go to Machu Picchu or Bali. I don't know. I'm just naming things now. Think about where else you've always wanted to go and help let that influence where you decide to make your home base. And now while we're on that topic, I'd actually love to ask Blythe and Jenna Boo about their personal travels, if they were able to do any. What did you do on your own outside of the program? That's totally an important part of study abroad, that you get to take advantage of having a new home base around the world and hopefully get to see much, much more than just your host city, even though that has a lot to offer as well. Genevieve?
Okay, so I went to Athens with the school. That was the first trip that I took. We had a great experience. I loved everything about that trip. And then my friends and I decided to go to Barcelona, and we went for like a weekend. And then after I decided for spring break that I was gonna do like an Italy tour. So I ended up going to Rome, Venice, Milan, and Florence. And then I went to Paris 2 times. And yeah, that was basically it. Yeah. So I had a really packed semester.
Not too shabby at all. What was your like? What was there any that stood out to you as a favorite or something really meaningful?
I just liked how convenient everything was. The flights were pretty cheap, which was which I loved a lot. And a lot of the places offer like what hostels. So if you don't have the funds to get a fancy hotel or like an Airbnb, you can definitely stay at a hostel. I stayed at one when I went to Barcelona for one night. Um, you know, it was not my forte. I feel like, a lot of people might definitely be more comfortable, but I personally didn't really like it. However, they do like help you a lot, which is very helpful. So yeah.
There's certainly pros and cons to shared rooms by
Yeah.
all means. So I can't blame you too much there. How about you, Blythe?
So I will emphasize what you just said. Travel is so cheap. Like all of the flights that I took were probably under 50 pounds. I don't think I ever paid more than 50 pounds for a flight at all. Um, and we would stay mainly in Airbnbs because the Airbnbs are really not that bad. Especially I would go with my roommates. So it would be a group of 5 of us. So split among 5 people for a few days. It's so cheap. And the food abroad is also really cheap. Going past that, my roommates and I explored a lot around England. We went to Brighton, which was one of my favorite places that we went. We went to Milan as well, which was beautiful. We did a little because I wasn't there for spring break, obviously, but we had a little like fall long weekend kind of thing. So we did 2 days along kind of the coast of France. So we were in Marseille for 2 days, and we were in Nice for 3 days, which was gorgeous. We were there in early October and it was still like 80 degrees and beautiful. We went to Paris, which I've always wanted to go to Paris. Did cry in front of the Eiffel Tower, but it was gorgeous. And then with the school, we went to Edinburgh in Scotland, which I don't know if you touched upon this yet while I was out doing my fire drill, but the program gives you like 3 different trips to choose from that are free. They're like included in the cost that you pay to go abroad. So I believe for us, you either chose between Berlin, Paris, or Edinburgh. And I chose Edinburgh because I was like, I don't think I would ever go there on my own. But it honestly ended up being one of my favorite places that I've ever been in my life. So that was incredible. We also went to Barcelona. We went to, I'm trying to think where else. We went to Belgium, which was great. Got a great waffle there. We went all around. And then we also stayed home a lot of weekends and just explored a lot of London because London in itself is amazing. So we were definitely getting around.
I know I haven't even asked you guys what your favorite part of London is. Maybe we'll have to circle back to that at the end. There's too little time and too much to discuss. Before we run out of time, Ooh, really? Tuition. This will be the most important thing, and then we'll wrap it up. Tuition's the same, whether you're on campus or abroad, exactly the same. The difference is what we call our program fee. So instead of paying for room and board on campus, which is your meal plan, your dorm, you're gonna pay basically the same thing abroad, and we call that the program fee. It might include meals. It depends on the housing option. For example, in London, it won't because you cook for yourself. If you're in a homestay, it would, and some of our dorms as well. It includes all of those amazing things that we talked about that are provided by the program. Like Blythe mentioned, most have an overnight trip choice. There are day trips. There are activities. You get all of that included. The main things that come out of pocket, and probably the biggest difference between being on campus and being abroad, is your out-of-pocket personal expenses. And that is going to be all of that personal travel we just talked about. But like you guys mentioned, it's so much cheaper than being in the United States. And certainly if that is an important consideration for you, think about your location. Central Europe is probably one of the most affordable programs that we offer. And it is probably the most affordable cost of living. Madrid, you can get food and beverages for 2 to 5 euros. Like, so cheap. So I really encourage you not to be too daunted by this and to do a little bit of research into that. And again, a big emphasis on taking advantage of what the program offers, because there's so much. If you just did what the program offered and emailed you about and all the free things they told you about, you would never be bored. I truly promise. I truly promise that. You just have to go out and get it. Now all of your financial aid, 99.9% of the time, travels with you. Always check with your financial aid officer. There could always be that 0.1% of the time, but almost always students get all of the financial aid they get on campus abroad, but they also get extra. We offer tons of grants and scholarships to students who study abroad. You can see many of the examples here. This is just a snapshot. This changes here and there, but you can see we're giving away money to students to encourage them to take advantage of these opportunities and to defray additional costs. And this is on top of additional grants that you'd receive for just from the Office of Financial Aid. Now, really quickly, the main thing you got to think about here, you can find all of this on our website. It's super open to everybody. You only need a 2.5 GPA and you have to apply early. Our programs can fill up. Our applications open those dates in bold every single time before these cycles. You're going to apply about a year before you go. So I really encourage you to plan about a year and a half before you go very seriously. You probably can ask either of these guys. You probably start thinking about it by the second you get to campus or very early on. But it's never a bad idea to really start planning in earnest and making decisions about where you're going to go about a year and a half before the semester you want. You're going to be able to find us in many places all over the internet, but certainly in person at our offices on 106 Walnut Place or in Bird Library. Again, all of this is on the website, so I apologize if I'm breezing through the slides, but I will also stick around here to answer any remaining questions that we have. So it looks like we've done a very good job, Tracy, of answering all the questions. I'm so sorry I talked for so long.
Oh, no, you were fine. It was great. One thing that we haven't really touched on are visas. So I would love it if you would just chat for a minute about visas and how we help students obtain those visas and what we do for them.
Thank you. Yes, I saw the question about international student visas. So for many of our centers, we bulk apply for visas for you. We will give you step-by-step instructions, extremely detailed about what you need to give us in order for us to do that for you. And it depends sometimes on where you're living and your home base is and all of that. Some programs we don't do it for you, but we do still provide you step-by-step instructions. And we can also work with our international students on that as well. It certainly will require probably a little more work on your end, but we have dozens of international students I mean, just in the School of Architecture alone, but there's many, many more as well, that from all of our schools and colleges, and they study abroad very easily. So don't be daunted by that. We're here to help.
Fantastic. And another quick question about classes. Are they held Monday through Friday? Are they held on the weekends? How does that work?
Blythe, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so at least for London when I was there, a lot of the like Thursday, Friday classes were exclusively for either like acting majors or for like architecture majors. So like for me personally, all of the classes there are 3 hours long, which I know like right now might seem crazy, but I promise you it flies by and they're only held once a week. So for me, I had 2 classes on Monday, 2 classes on Tuesday, and 1 class on Wednesday. So then Thursday through Sunday, I had no classes, and they're usually held again in those 3 hour blocks. So it's like 9:30 to like 12:30, and then 1:30 to 4:30, 5:30 to 8:30. Which really is not that bad. The centers are really great. There's a lot of food stuff around there. It honestly, that's the best because then you have more time to go do things, go travel. So everyone's kind of on the same schedule as you, which is great. So the classes are really easy to navigate and it's not like as full jam packed as it would be if you were on campus.
Yeah, and you spend a lot of that time doing the field trips as well. So sometimes you're only in the classroom for half of those 3 hours anyway. And I will know, I believe that's just the London Center that does 3 hour classes, but still most of the time you're not going to have Friday classes for the vast majority of students. And certainly no weekend classes.
Well, looks like one more question is the application process. Is there a GPA that needs to be met in order to qualify?
We do have minimum GPA requirements. You need at least a 2.5 for all of our programs. It sometimes raises to a 3.0 or somewhere in the middle. But most it's just a 2.5. You can appeal for a program that hasn't reached capacity, hasn't filled up if you have a 2.4. But I definitely encourage you to keep your GPA to a 2.5 so that you don't have to worry about that.
And are there any other requirements for the application?
Very few. The only other one is that you aren't in any disciplinary trouble or procedures that are pending on campus when you at the time of application and then when you're going to be going abroad because you need to be on campus to deal with those. But truly, other than that, the application's incredibly simple and we want to accept as many students as we can.
Well, this has been awesome. I really want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Definitely to thank our panelists for being with us and sharing their incredible experiences. Study abroad is really an amazing, amazing thing. And we do it at Syracuse University pretty much the best. So you're choosing hopefully a really incredible program and something that you can participate in for part of your academic career as a student. So again, congratulations on your acceptance to Syracuse University. We look forward to seeing you on campus. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.